Welcome. I'm Evelyn Rudy.
And I'm Justin Walter.
And this is Santa Monica on Stage, where we talk about the people and venues that make the city of Santa Monica the cultural destination for the performing arts.
Today we're kicking off with California Lawyers for the Arts, a group that's doing great work to help artists and arts organizations to preserve and protect their rights.
It's a very important topic, as too many people forget the business side of show business. Then later on, we'll meet Isabel Storey, who co-founded and runs Shine Storytelling, a group that brings together spoken word artists and celebrates emotional growth.
We'll even get a special performance from one of their storytellers, which I'm very excited about, live right here.
We've got a lot to get to, so let's get started.
Well, in the anguish of that moment, the grit of that unrecoverable time, and those irretrievable words, what should I have said? I should have said, Betsy, you were the first girl I kissed, and it was beautiful and profound, and you'll always be a special person to me all of my life.
I come home and make him lunch. I love him, 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 and how we make out. I love you, I love you. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I love you. It's only 7 days, and I love you, and I know it makes no sense, and you're going back to England. There's no way we're going to have anything happening, but I love you, and that's all we start making out again. I love you too, you know. No, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Finally, I suggested we take a break. You can't leave me now, he said. You're all I have. Then he went to the closet, took out a rifle, and walked outside. It was a pitch black night. And then a gunshot went off. I can still hear the echo. I lay down on the floor, curled up, and I cried. Unlovable, I thought. Untouchable, unlovable. What man would want me now? I had ended a 17-year marriage 6 months before and was just stepping into the dating world. I would be out of the running for at least a year, or maybe forever.
Storytelling is possibly the oldest form of artistic expression, and today it's alive and well at the monthly event Shine. Each time they start with a theme, such as letting go, coming of age, and peak experiences, and then the storytellers take it from there and with an original piece of their own personal experiences. So here to tell us all about Shine is co-founder and producer Isabel Storey. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me here.
So you have a background in theater and journalism. So how
Yes.
did you get started with Shine and how did you form it?
Well, I had quite an extensive background before that in journalism and television, TV journalism, reality shows, but I was always interested in true stories. So I had met up with Jen Bloom, who's a director around town, and we just had a coffee meeting and talked about, gee, you know, we'd love to work together sometime. And about a month later, she called and said, you know, I have this idea for a storytelling event, or, you know, would you like to do that with me? And I had been thinking about that for the last few years in the back of my mind, that's kind of imagining this event. And I said, that's perfect. I've been thinking about that. Let's do it. So we decided to start it.
And that's how it started, over a coffee conversation.
Exactly,
I love
exactly.
it.
So how does it work? It's monthly, and how do you pick the artists or the speakers that are going to be telling the stories?
Well, we try to outreach to all over the city to different storytellers, but we want people. First of all, there's quite a prolific storytelling scene. I was just told before we did the show that there are like now about 45 storytelling events in Los Angeles, which is just incredible. I think there's a real thirst for live stories and human connection. So we tap into that, but we also want people from all different backgrounds, like just real people, up and down the socioeconomic ladder, different ethnicities of different backgrounds. So we're doing outreach all over the place to try to get the best stories.
So each event is a theme. So you pick the
Yes.
theme, and then the storytellers, do they write their own story and then perform it, or how does it work? If I were to go to one of the events, what would I be seeing? What would it look like?
Okay. Well, we try to give some leeway there too, because some of the events around town, you have to have it all memorized, and people just get up there and perform, which really lends itself more to professional type performer people. But we wanted it also be open to people from a writing background. So people from a writing background, we tend to write something out and want to read it.
Yeah.
And we also wanted it to be open to just regular people without a performing background. So we say you can, be off book and perform. Some people are like that. You could be a writer who, you could take your pages up there, you can read it, you could tell it from an outline. So we let people just do it in whatever way is the most comfortable for them to tell their story.
I like
And
that.
do
Yeah.
you vet them? Do you hear the
Yeah.
stories first, audition them, or
Yeah,
how
we
does it?
tinkered with this a little bit as far as the ratio, but we decided that where it really worked well is where we book 8 people ahead of time, and then we allow 2 spots for volunteers that night. So people do, now it has become a little more formalized over time, have to submit at least 3 weeks ahead, and they can, like I said, the variety of performers, well, that's how they can submit. They can submit an outline, they can, if they've written the whole thing out, they submit that. We look at it, first of all, we want a story that's well told, but also that fits the theme, and our unique element, is, I was just talking to you about, with our event that distinguishes it from some of the other events, that there's some kind of life lesson, something that you learned from the experience. It could be a heartbreaking, sad, or angry story. It could be a happy or funny story. We run the emotional gamut, but there's something in the story that you took away from it, that you learned something, you grew in some way. So we're looking for that element in the story as well.
It's not just getting up there and making people laugh through a story.
Right,
It's,
and there'll be once in a while I'll get somebody who's really surprised that they're not picked because they have a very dramatic story, let's say. But I'll read that and I think, okay, all these dramatic things happen, but then so
What's
what? Like
the aha
after that,
moment?
what's the aha? Like, did you learn anything? Did you go? Like, there's nothing like that. It's just an event that happened. So that's not quite enough for our event.
And so then, Isabel, what is an aha moment?
Okay. I was thinking about that a little bit, because there's so many different ones. But there was one a storyteller who told a story that there was a girl he had a crush on, and she was a very sweet, bubbly, happy person. She was killed by a drunk driver. And this really hit him hard. And what happened is he was not only sad, but he was angry at that drunk driver, and he just kept getting angrier and angrier, and he couldn't let go of it. And he woke up angry every day, for weeks or months on end, and it was just getting worse. And then one night he had a dream about her, and she was at a party or something and looked at him and smiled, and that was his aha moment. He realized that he could let go of the anger. And I can't explain that. I don't know if he can explain what it meant, but it just meant that she said, you can move on now. You don't have to carry the burden of this anymore. There was one, actually, another one that was about a kiss that someone told. And the theme of this night was first kiss. So as you can imagine, we had all different kinds of kisses. But this was a very old-fashioned time of older gentleman who told this story. And he had taken, he was like a young boy and this girl on their date. And they went to the movie, but then they ended up having the first kiss. So he didn't even watch what was happening on the screen. And this moment was so special. But then, nothing happened after that. 40 years later, 40 years later, because of a reunion, he talked to this woman on the phone, and he was catching up. But he was so much thinking about that first kiss that he didn't really hear what she said to him, which was, she said, oh, I do this and that because it's not very far from where I walk for dialysis. And then he remembers saying, oh, good for you.
oh, jeez.
Which, in retrospect, he felt like, oh, he put his foot in his mouth. How could he have said that? He was so preoccupied with his own memory that he didn't really take in what she said.
Yeah. So,
And then, but what the aha was, like a month later, he read her obit in the paper.
Oh, gosh.
And he realized he had missed the opportunity to tell her what that kiss meant to him.
Oh.
So that was very sad, but what he learned from it was that when you have something like that, that you should share it with the person at the time.
Nice.
And he wished he had told her what that kiss had meant to him. But so even though it was sad, he learned something for the future.
That's beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
was. It was
storytelling
very
is all
sweet.
about.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
And you have an interesting way of keeping the stories under 7 minutes, is that correct?
Yes, which can be hard because people get very involved with their story.
Get off.
We used the hook at first, but it didn't, go over well. No, I'm just kidding. We have a bell, so at
Right.
6 minutes, the bell rings once. At 7 minutes, it rings twice. Usually that's enough, but there are some people who are so into their story, they really. So then I gradually just approach the stage.
So you get them off.
And guess what?
Well, I've had to come up, stand right
ding. Ding, ding,
next
where's
to
our
the
bell?
person,
Ding,
and
ding.
I've had this one veteran storyteller. I was standing right next to him on the stage, and he kept
Yeah.
no. He finally finished, but
Well, thank you,
we
Isabel.
do try to limit the time.
Thank you
yes.
so much for
Ding, ding.
joining us and giving us this information. I'm definitely looking forward to checking out Shine. And
Yeah.
when we come back, we'll be joined by Deana Barone with an original storytelling piece. Here to perform Teases, Taunts, and Tissues, please welcome Deana Barone.
First day, 8th grade. My heart is galloping. I know everybody in my 40-person class, and we all grew up together, but over the summer, I've filled out. I'm a year younger than everyone else, but I finally have my first bra. It's a 28 AAA, but it's still a bra. And then there's that thing that happened over the summer with my 5 best friends who broke up with me. You are not a follower. That's Mimi Chachko, the leader and the most developed girl in class. But I am Mimi. I am a follower. She doesn't believe me. Well, I have other friends. So, hey, Brian. He starts sneezing uncontrollably and then asks me for a tissue. But before I can give it to him, he's beyond me, hanging out, laughing with his friends. Weird. All during my classes, people are having sneezing fits. Weird. And then I open my locker, and out topples about a dozen soft packs of Puffs tissue. Very weird. My next door locker neighbor, Rachel, whispers, Mimi Chachko told everyone that you are stuffing your bra. Well, thus started days, weeks, months of constant teasing and name-calling. Hey, stuffy, busted, and Kleenex, Kleenex, and more Kleenex. Everybody partook except for Rachel and this boy named Steven. I wanted to die. Anything would be better than living with this pain. Hurl myself down that long staircase at school and split my head open, and there'd be blood and everyone would be sorry, but then they'd probably talk about my supposed falsies at my funeral. I asked Brian, why? 'Cause you care. It's just too much fun. My eyes welled up with tears. See? Fun. I cried every night, and one time I had a thought. And it was, why do I want to be friends with a bunch of bullies and mean people? I like Steven and Rachel. They're my people. Wow, eureka! And a surprise, because it's such a simple thought that I didn't have for 3.5 months. I go back to school, do the usual, keep my eyes down, my ears closed, my shoulders rounded so no one could see my breasts, which are now a AA, still unassisted. And then I know that it's going to be unrelenting, but it isn't. Nobody makes fun of me that day, and the days following, I get invited again to parties and sleepovers. I start walking straight, looking people in the eye. God, I wish that I could bottle that epiphany and drink it as an elixir every time that I go through a hard challenge in life, right? It's a miracle. Human being from victim. But I guess a psychologist would probably really understand all of this. I know that since 8th grade, I have never been a follower.
Mimi Chachko was right.
How very interesting and exciting something like California Lawyers for the Arts is. And I think it's not just for artists.
No.
They said anybody can learn and participate. And I understand you come from a family of lawyers?
I do. I come from a family of lawyers, and I almost went to law school, like I said, and I like how they're melding their passion with law and making it affordable. Even thinking about being out here in Los Angeles, the money it takes to get a lawyer.
Scary.
It's so scary,
scary.
and it's daunting when you're looking at these contracts and everything, and knowing that that organization exists is
Yes,
it's awesome.
it is awesome.
And I loved hearing the story about Shine and then Deana's story. It was
That's wonderful.
touching, yeah.
I can completely relate to Deana's story. For me, it was in the 7th grade.
oh, geez.
The difference in the stories is that I was using tissue.
Well, you probably had a different aha moment.
A different aha
You
moment.
used
Yes,
more
indeed.
tissues than you had.
Oh boy!
But it's also, when you look at someone, you don't realize how stories from 8th grade, 7th grade, 2nd grade impact the rest of their lives.
oh, it's so
And
true.
it's
so
an event
true.
like Shine where you can go and hear different stories from different people that I love, that I'm definitely going to be going to Shine.
So am I, and I
checking
hope
that
everybody
out.
out there does too.
Yeah.
That's our show for today. Every week, we're continuing our journey towards learning more about the arts groups that make Santa Monica's cultural world so rich.
We look forward to seeing you next time as we introduce you to a few more of our friends here at Santa Monica On Stage.